first and last name for us?
Wilfred Gallegos, Wilfred Gallegos.
In your title.
Director of Municipal Development for the City of Albuquerque.
So tell us about, you guys were obviously anticipating this storm. What did we have as far as city crews out there last night and today?
You know, we knew that the storm was coming in. I don't think anyone anticipated that it would have lasted as long as it did, and that the actual storm itself actually parked itself over the city and stayed there for quite some time. We began last night with some people on standby. We called them in. We started off with 4 people. We quickly went to 10. We went to 18. As of this morning, a few hours ago, we were up to 29 people out on city streets trying to mop up and clean up the remnants of the storm.
Are those all snow plows, or you say people, but what are they doing exactly out there? Are they on the trucks, laying down cinder?
The truck behind me over here is what we refer to as a Bobtail. That's one of the smaller ones, and then we also have the tandems, which is very similar to that except a little bit larger, and it's got the tandem axles on it. So there was 29 of those out there today.
And yesterday, by the end of the night, how many trucks did you have out there cleaning up the streets?
Again, we started yesterday probably right around the rush hour when it first started coming down. We started calling people in. We had 4 people on standby that were already out roaming around. We quickly jumped to 10 trucks. We jumped to 18 probably, I would say, right around 10 o'clock or so. And then they ran through the night. Again, the storm parked over the city, trying to keep up with what it did was dump snow citywide. I believe some of the reports were anywhere from maybe up to a foot in some of the foothill areas, down to like 6 inches in other areas. And so they kept running the arterials. That is our primary responsibility. And then this morning we had people set up to come in at 4 a.m. in the morning, relieve some of those crews, and we actually called in more folks. So we did have 29 people out as of this morning.
So are there specific problem areas that you guys have seen in the metro? We saw cars sliding, residential streets and the highway. Where are you focusing on today?
That was the real problem with this particular storm is that this was a city-wide storm. Typically the storms that we get within the city may dump a ½ inch of snow or get a little bit of moisture within 1 or 2 sections of the city. Typically the canyon area along the foothills. Sometimes the far northwest mesa gets some. Typically the valley gets wet. We really don't see a lot of freezing temperatures within the valley. Or sometimes, it could be the southeast mesa down by the airport and so forth that gets snow. So when those kinds of storms happen, which is typical here in Albuquerque, we get those running overnight, and we're able to concentrate crews within those areas. We're able to clean that up. So usually by the morning hours when people are coming out to work, you really don't notice that, or you can kind of see that it's been cleaned up. When we get a storm as the one last night that's citywide, there's over 1,300 lane miles of arterial roadways. And so in order to run trucks through those, the guys have to be able to fill up the trucks, go out, spread material, put the plows down and so forth, which is kind of unusual for us putting the plows down also. Typically we never have to do that. It takes time in order to get that.
Do you feel like the city's prepared for this kind of stuff? We don't get storms like this very often, right? Do we have enough equipment?
It's a good question. I think we're prepared for it. Again, we need patience from the public. You've got to realize that, when we're getting a citywide event and we're getting snow that's accumulating in there, you can't expect that every arterial is going to be clear, within an hour or so. So the amount of equipment that we do have with our trucks, we do have them equipped with plows and spreaders that we're able to put on. We do have storage bins scattered throughout the city. I think we're prepared for these storms. It's not something, though, that, you can expect one of our typical storms so we can clean up within an hour or two. These ones take a lot longer.
If we're prepared for it, how come, much of the night, a lot of the roads were all white? A lot of people complain they didn't see any plows.
Plows are out there again. They're spread throughout the city rather than just being in one sector of the city as we typically do. When we get a typical storm here in Albuquerque and we're either concentrate up in the foothills, your chance of seeing a plow is a lot greater because there's probably running within only certain areas of the city. When we're spread out throughout the city, your chance of seeing a plow is a lot less. The other thing, again, with last night's storm is that the accumulation, the storm parked itself over the city and it just kept dropping snow. So if a plow runs through there, the chances are within an hour, it would probably almost look like it hadn't.
What are what are you guys focusing on today? What's the priority roads? Is there any?
Well, again, we concentrate on the arterials. The major arterials are the primary responsibility for us to have those cleared so that people can move around in there. You can kind of see today, I think as you drove in here, most of the streets are either a little bit wet or they're starting to dry out. Most of them have been cleared. Tonight, what we're looking at and what we're concerned with is if there's any more moisture accumulation and if the temperatures do drop below freezing, which the predictions are not. It's supposed to stay above freezing in there, but we could have black ice. That's probably the biggest concern tonight. We will have people on standby to be able to address those situations.
What will you do to prevent, hold on 1 second because you're moving, what will you do to prevent black ice from forming on the streets? Like what will they be doing tonight?
Well, tonight, again, if it's ice, the black ice that's forming, again, we will be using the salt cinder mix in order to try and melt that.
All right. Anything you want to warn drivers, you know, if it gets cold like this? It looks clear today, but like you said, if it freezes and melts.
That is a huge concern, really, for the safety of the public out there. If you're home tonight, please stay home. If you don't have to go out, I would not go out. Early in the morning, again, if you can stay home, let the sun come out, let the sun kind of dry up these streets a little bit more from in there, especially if we do get any other moisture. If you do happen to be out, give yourself plenty of space, take the speeds a lot slower, and again, just because you're driving and you think that it looks like it's black asphalt, the real concern is that it could be iced over and you wouldn't even know it.
It's supposed to rain, and there's a concern that there could be like flash floods with the warmer temperatures coming and melting all of the snow, and then if we get rain, have you all thought about that or anything?
At this point, at least from the predictions that we have seen, is that there is a possibility of some small trace amounts of rain, probably starting around 6 p.m. and running through maybe about 11. That's what we're thinking. But I mean, those forecasts change again as storms move in and out. The amounts that are predicted are less than 1/10 of an inch. So we're not expecting a whole lot of moisture. Again, we weren't expecting the amount of snow that we had last night either with the predictions that were made. We thought the storm was supposed to come in around 4 or 5 o'clock through the rush hour and that it should have exited in there, but it tended to park itself. I think a lot of the melting has happened already on the streets. Any of the other melting that should happen if the temperatures do remain above freezing is it'll probably be stuff in the grassy areas and so forth. I don't think we're too concerned about any flash flooding with that. As I say, I think a lot of the stuff is already melted that's within the streets itself.
What would you all have done different last night? Because I mean, we had chaos. So is there anything, looking back, like what would you all do different?
You know, we think we took all the steps necessary with the predictions that we had. Again, yesterday, we have to make our calls and set up our folks right around noon. So as the predictions change as you go forward in there, then we start calling in more people. We had the equipment loaded and so forth. I think one of the things looking at it during the rush hour is, you know, we've heard people, you know, that it's taking quite a long time and so forth. But even with the guys out there during the rush hour, they're going to be stuck in traffic with everyone else in there. In fact, a lot of our plows were in traffic out there, and I mean, they're running along with the same speed just because of the rush hour itself. I'm not sure we would have changed anything really in there if the prediction had been that we would have had snow overnight running through the entire night in there like that. We may have had more people on standby for that particular point in time. I'm not sure that it would have done a whole lot of difference with what we actually ran with, just because the snow continued to accumulate throughout the night.
Did you all run out of salt and cinder? Because I don't see any behind us.
No, we still have salt and cinder.
Is it planned like all hands on deck through the weekend, or how long are you planning on continuing even overtime staff for now?
Right now through tonight, we've set up 10 guys to be on call in order to address ice situations, or if it does turn to rain and we do have some low-lying areas of the city where we might get typical areas where it ponds and so forth, so we can pump out. So the plan is to run through that at least through Sunday. Again, there's no predictions at least through Sunday into Monday. Monday night is the next event that we're anticipating again, but we'll take a look at that Monday morning and start addressing those situations as the predictions change.
How many total snowplows does the city have?
The city has 32 snow plows that are of the large variety, and I think we have 3 smaller ones.
And out of those 35, you've used 29
We had 29 running this morning, yes.